Two stories that I happened to read in tandem recently, Slaughterhouse 5 by Kurt Vonnegut and Homestuck, both use nonlinear time heavily as a storytelling tool. Before we continue any further, this video isn't very plot specific about either of these stories, but I'm not promising it to be spoiler free. Also, I've only finished up to and including Act 5 of Homestuck, so keep your mouth shut in comments about anything past that point. The narrative parallels between these two stories are practically non-existent, and the only reason I have this on my mind is because of the coincidence that happened in my day-to-day life. But despite it being rather insignificant, I think there's some meat to comparing how the two handle a very similar concept. Homestuck doesn't immediately show its hand regarding time travel stuff by nature of what it is. There will be occasional flashbacks and flash forwards, but nothing too unconventional. But it slowly builds up to a point in Act 4 where it is fully revealed that something akin to time travel is at play in this universe. It's not quite conventional time travel though. One set of characters, the trolls, are stuck within a single location and time frame, but are able to view and talk to another set of characters, the human kids, at any point in their lives, or at least any point before the event TM. From the perspective of the kids, it might as well be pure and simple time travel, but for the trolls, they have a limited time frame of some number of hours in which they can talk to the kids, and every interaction happens back to back for them. Homestuck doesn't have a main character per se, and it uses a limited third-person perspective, hopping between 4 kids, 12 trolls, and a bunch of random other characters that span from well before the birth of any of the kids or trolls to well after the destruction of their relevant planets. As such, delivering a completely linear story would be pretty challenging to say the least, and without any real point. Homestuck instead fully embraces its non-linearity, constantly hopping between characters and through time. If it sounds confusing, well, it only is from a broader outside perspective. While reading, everything flows pretty naturally, and for the most part, I never really got lost. Let's compare that to Slaughterhouse 5, a story about the life of a single man, Billy Pilgrim, who has become unstuck in time. This, from the perspective of us humans, looks identical to uncontrollable time travel to points all across his lifespan. He'll fall asleep as a prisoner of war in 1945 and wake up as a highly successful optometrist in 1973. In contrast to Homestuck, this is absurdly simple. The narrative follows Billy completely linearly. The audience experiences the events in the same order as the protagonist. The world around Billy doesn't follow him like we do, of course, and this is where you'd expect, if you are not familiar with the book, where it gets interesting. And to an extent it does, just not in a typical way. It doesn't use time travel to plant seeds or foreshadow or toy with the idea with fate. The events of Billy's life simply happen. They have always happened as they have, and they always will happen as they will. There is no bigger picture, no narrative conflict, no climax to build up to. The book simply happens. It's absurdist, in the philosophical sense. There's no inherent purpose to anything, and we're just along for the ride. From a structural standpoint, time skipping is used to change up the pace and break the tension and soften the blow of intense moments, but more importantly, it forces a perspective wherein tragedy is inevitable and immovable, and from that builds the entire thesis of the novel. You should focus on the good things in your life, and don't worry about what you cannot change. Homestuck, on the other hand, builds a story all about directly tackling expectations and inevitability. While it is absurd in a more general sense, I would hardly call it absurdist. It has direction and purpose, characters that progress and have arcs, tension that builds and climaxes. It uses time skipping not just because it'd be hard not to, but very intentionally to plant seeds, major events in the future that are infallible and unchangeable, and the narrative nurtures the expectations of the future with more and more context as to why these things not only happened, but had to happen as an immovable constant, in spite of all the protest held against them. It's incredibly engaging and satisfying to see the stakes getting raised over and over and over again in completely unfathomable ways that are, all the same, perfectly cut to fit within the narrative and the world. Unfortunately, I haven't finished Homestuck, so this parallel analysis is going to be a bit lopsided. I cannot in good faith come to any serious conclusions about overall messages and themes with what I know. What I do know is this. Both of these stories use time skipping to toy with the concept of inevitability, and I think that's pretty neat.